the stars be with you.
Okay, now let's meet our guest. All right, I'd love to welcome my special guest for this week, Lisa Allen. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy that you brought me here. I love energetic principles, and it's awesome.
Well, I love you, Lisa, and I'm glad you're here with us today. And Lisa's another local San Diegan who's part of our San Diego Astrological Society. So I always like to give our society a little bump there. And you know, we've been talking a while now here because we had some technical issues going on as Mercury is almost ready to station and other things are going on. So of course, but I'm glad we got you here. You're here. And so let's find out more. Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Lisa Allen. I'm an astrologer. I'm a master herbalist. That's what the MH is for. I'm also a tarot reader, a dowser, and in particular, a timing expert. I'm one of the people that do timing, and it's odd because I do it with a pendulum, and then I reverse engineer it with astrology. So it depends on the issue. It's just faster for me to do it that way. The pendulum will tell me when, and then I look it up, and I'm like, oh, you know, Jupiter's going retrograde or whatever it is that's happening on that day. Usually it's a change in the moon. It's usually new or a full moon, almost always.
Interesting. So perfect for a Capricorn, right? To be into timing.
Perfect for a Capricorn.
Yes.
Got the pendulum right here.
She's ready.
I'm ready.
Don't forget to leave out, Lisa, that you are a author published a few times over.
Yes. I've had many articles published in about, it's over 24 Llewellyn annuals now. And I also have a couple of tiny articles, like vignette type articles in moon books for about 2 or 3 different books with them too. Yeah. But I have a first book deal with Llewellyn on timing, actually. We don't have a name for it yet, but I'm working on that. And I have possibly some other exciting news coming up. I don't know the details yet, so I can't share, but
hey,
it's with other projects that I have, which, like us creative types, Mel, you know what I'm talking about. We're always doing some kind of little, like back stove cooking stuff. Yeah. So.
Well, we are in the midst of a lot of retrograde, so keeping it under wraps right now seems rather fitting.
It's probably a good idea.
Yes, but you're giving them a taste of something down the line.
Indeed.
I love it. So today, Lisa and I are going to rap about, I titled it Catalytic Motion, Total Lunar Eclipse in Aquarius. And we were just joking before we started hit record, what's left to say? Because it is a hot topic. Goodness. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on first. So there's plenty to say, but many astrologers have been talking about it. And for some time now. So Lisa, where do we begin?
Goodness. Well, I think that a good place to begin is like just on the astronomy part of it. This is the longest lunar eclipse of the century. And I mean 2000 to 2099. If you look at all of the lunar eclipses, this is the longest one. And I also find
in time how long it takes to actually eclipse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So meaning that from the beginning of the eclipse till the end of the eclipse, that's what I mean by the longest. I should probably have specified that.
That's okay.
it is a total eclipse. We can't see it, but the other side of the world will see it.
Yeah, India and
Asia, India, and I think parts of Europe too.
And I think Southern Africa or Southern and Eastern Africa. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we will not be able to see it. We're in the wrong part of the world.
Yeah, it'll be daylight.
We had that awesome solar eclipse last year, so.
Yes, that Lisa got to see.
I got to see. Yeah, I got to be in Idaho and see that like firsthand, and like nobody was around. It was awesome because we just had this little hidden sweet spot that we found, and it was amazing.
I love it.
Very amazing. It was very unexpected because I haven't talked about it very much, but when Chrissy and I were there, it's my daughter. I thought that everything would go black because that's what I'd heard, that it would be kind of a nighttime. That didn't really happen. The corona was giant. And I understood from some other people that witnessed it. It's like, yeah, the corona was larger than with other eclipses. That, like if you're in that shadow. So,
yeah.
And I remember at one point it made like a perfect pentagram. Like it was awesome.
Well, it sounds very mystical.
Oh, yes. I didn't expect it because I did not expect it because I thought it was just going to go black and then like show up again. And it was like, it just got kind of dusky but the corona was just giant. Like it was really crazy.
Yeah.
So on that note, let's get back to the lunar eclipse because it's happening kind of at the same time of year, like a little bit, summerish,
Yeah.
And I think that this lunar eclipse has a lot more of a punch than what we realize. We think, oh, it's a lunar eclipse in Aquarius and, we'll just get through it like, we do all of the other eclipses that are every 6 months. This one, I think, is a little different because, first off, the length of it. And we talk as astrologers about how impactful eclipses are by the length of them. So I think that the length by itself says that there's going to be more of an impact, of revealing. So we talk about eclipses being revealings of what you didn't know before, what was hidden. And a lot of times those things are truth. We love truth when we're like really open for it so we can get really good opportunities. But most people, they don't like the truth, or at least, they say they do and kind of really don't. So the truth ends up being very, like slamming for them. Like they'll get an experience that might not be so pleasant. So
yeah, and
it just depends. I've been having some good pre-eclipse moments. I've had some recent opportunities open up that, I've waited for like 10 years. So I can't really complain.
Yeah, you were not in the hot spot, at least yet.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, exactly. It's actually, interestingly, this particular one is on my part of fortune, which, depending on the house system that you use, it would be in the 8th or the 9th house. And I think just by what's happening, it's in the 9th house because publishing is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, that book deal just came around.
Yeah, there's some other stuff going on. I can't. I can't.
The down low.
Because it's too small. Too much. Too little of information. I don't want to like jinx it.
No, I don't want you to jinx it either.
Don't say anything.
It's like a birthday wish. You got to hold it in.
Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. Or energetic birthday, as my friend Mooncat Melissa Mason calls when the sun crosses our ascendant, she'll call that our energetic birthday.
Oh, and that makes sense.
I had mine like on June 19th, June 20th, kind of.
Yes, because you are Gemini rising, right?
That was my rising. Yes. Yeah. So, anyway, so I think that just the length of it is pretty telling. It's at 4 degrees Aquarius, which is on my part of fortune. So I'm like, yes, open up the fortune gate. I'm good with that. I'm hoping that there's some other people with it hitting part of fortune. I'm not really sure what to expect. It's not like really on the astrology books to look up,
that type of place.
An eclipse when it's on your part of fortune, These
are the valuable times, Lisa, where you get to actually share what it is that you find for that placement. Because as astrologers, we have to live it, right?
I got to get there first.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will be sharing later. I will say, though, that with the Mars energy there, and Mars is really close because of the retrograde, and it's closer than 2003. And then I remember in 2003, when it was in Pisces, it was the closest it had been to the Earth in like centuries, as I remember. So we're like in the second place of how close it is in centuries. Okay. And it'll be the closest on the day of the lunar eclipse, which I think that can't be a coincidence. Okay. So it's also out of bounds. Meaning Mars, the planet is out of bounds. And it hasn't even been in Aquarius to Capricorn since the 70s. And I don't even know if that one, the 70s one, was out of bounds. I should look it up. But
well,
out of bounds.
Tell people what out of bounds
Out of bounds. Okay. So what it is that there's like longitude, which is like, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. And those are measured from the Earth, like going into those parts of the ecliptic. But there's another measurement that goes across so that it's up or down. Kind of like how our equator is and the Tropic of Cancer. That's where the sun hits its rays, okay? And then the Tropic of Capricorn, that's where the sun hits its rays when it's at the solstice. So the solstice points are held by those places. And then the equator is when it turns into 0 Aries or 0 Libra, depending on the direction it's going. What happens is that in declination, that the planets kind of do that also. Like, so they have this up and down motion, as well as the vertical motion that goes across. And when they meet up, we get an eclipse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise it's just a regular new moon, or, we don't So when planets are out of bounds in like when it's northern, like i.e. Cancer, Gemini Cancer, when it's out of bounds, like past the Tropic of Capricorn, past the Tropic of Cancer, when it's more north than that, the planets are kind of uncontrollable, but they usually work in our favor. It's easier to access the energy. So that, like, say that Mars, I have a story here. I have a couple of people I know that had Mars out of bounds in Cancer in their natal charts. Now, you would think that because of the detriment of Mars in Cancer, that it would be like really hard to control that Mars, or that something, might, accident or whatever, Cancer, has its own thing going on, or that they would run out of energy fast and things like that. But these two people were extremely athletic, and they were like, if you will, like, they took big risks and, I'm going to break this record and do all of this stuff. And they just did it, and they didn't have any fear. So I thought that was very interesting, as far as like a Mars in Cancer and they don't have any fear. Like, what's going on here? And I think that the out of bounds placement for both of them had something to do with that. And interesting, like that one of those people like actually walks on fire, and she never had to like really be trained. She actually just walked on the coals, and it was like natural. It was fine. I thought it was funny. Cancer, like water sign, right?
Yeah, like putting the high heat
I
out,
wonder, like
the souls or
I'm like,
water.
my Mars in Capricorn is like, So I just thought it was really interesting. And by the way, that lady has like some Scorpio placements in her chart too. So I just, and Pisces placements too. So she has a lot of water. Yeah. And I'm guessing that the Scorpio part really helps with the risk taking, also.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Lisa, because I'm thinking of a friend of mine that has, she's actually a double Pisces, born on a Pisces, just before a Pisces new moon. And she's a Cancer rising with Mars conjunct her rising early on in Cancer. So I'm assuming her Mars is out of bounds, and she was a successful water polo champion.
Oh my gosh, that is a perfect signature. And I'll bet if you do look, it's probably out of bounds. I have a friend of mine that also has Mars, but she's a quintuple Scorpio, and she has Mars on her ascendant along with the sun and the moon, and I believe Neptune. And then, let's see, there's another planet I thought too. I don't remember what it is right now, and I forgive me.
That's okay. We're a little off topic.
We're a little off. But
we're out of bounds, Lisa.
I know, right? And yeah, how non-Capricorn is that? So she actually is really good with like, running and sports and all of those kinds of things. Like she's she's sporty, and she likes to work out, and she likes to get going, and she likes to put energy in things. But she also has because she gets going too fast, she's ungrounded, and she can have accidents and stuff like that. Not like car so much, but she'll hit her hand or like those kinds of things. And drop knives and, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Mars. So when it's out of bounds in the southern, and these are like any planet that is out of bounds. And by the way, Saturn never goes out of bounds. Isn't that interesting? The sun makes the boundary on like planet Earth with the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. So most of the planets have a time where they're if they're in Gemini, Cancer, like in longitude, you want to look and see if they're out of bounds in the northern part. And if they're like in Sagittarius, Capricorn, you want to see if they're out of bounds in the southern part. And sometimes even because it's not exact, sometimes even in some of the fixed signs, like we have it in Aquarius right now, and it's out of bounds. But it's out of bounds in the southern hemisphere. And what has been determined from any research that I've ever seen about declinations, you can talk to Tony Howard, and if you can get a hold of Lee Weston, she's really, really busy a lot, but they have a lot more knowledge about declinations than I do. But from anything that I understand about them, the southern out of bounds planets are way harder to control. So you can't like just capture the energy like how the ones in Cancer that like if they're out of bounds in the northern part, you can't just capture them and say, cool, I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to win. It's more like you still like, the out of bounds part might be like, okay, I'll take the risk, but you don't win. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because we have that Mars. So here we have Mars conjunct our lunar eclipse in Aquarius, which is also conjunct the South Node. So would you say that that
and the South Node means loss. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, like the North Node is bringing energies in and the South Node takes energies out.
Yeah. Well, would you equate that to the declination as well?
Okay, so the nodes are a little bit different because they're like with the moon, but yeah, I mean, there's something definitely going on there. Okay,
I guess what I'm saying is, so here we have a difference between north declination and out of bounds that go north versus the southern declination and out of bounds that go south. Would you equate some of that out of bounds south energy to kind of south node-esque? You know what I mean? Or are those two different things?
Yes, I do. It's not the same thing though. So I don't want to confuse people and think that it's identical. It's not. It's two separate things because one is based on the sun and the earth, that, the ecliptic and all of that. And the other one, which is the nodal pattern, is based on the moon. And the, like its cycle, which is a different overlay. You probably know that. And that's where you get the north and south node from, because, so like, let's say that like a level thing here is the ecliptic, and then the moon's like kind of kind of X's it, if you will. And then the point where when the moon is going upwards, it's north node. Okay. And then when the point where the moon is going south, it's the south node. So that's where you get the north and south node from. Mm-hmm. So it's a different cycle. It is interesting, though, that Mars would be out of bounds according to the Earth and Sun cycle at the same time that the South Node, which is lost, and southern and like all of the South part, that they're coinciding together at the same time and the same day, and like the same, like the height of intensity is at the same time. So I don't think that. And with Mars ruling Aries and Scorpio, I think that there's a lot of stuff there. I think that there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this lunar eclipse and all the configurations just in general, and how many transits that we are having this week that are very, here we have Mars retrograde that's now in the middle of its cycle, making that opposition to the sun.
Exactly.
And that's very important. And just Mercury just decides to go retrograde in the same week.
Just because, just add a little bit more, like trickster energy.
Absolutely. And it's kind of crazy. And not to mention that Uranus is in this T-square with the sun and Mars as well. So there's a lot of, like you're saying, like the South Node can be with loss. But it also, it can bring things back from the past too, because when we have South Node energy, so maybe dealing with the loss of a past.
Well, and I would would say with Uranus involved in a square, that feels like sudden loss. That could also be, and I remember in other people's charts when when Mars and Uranus were making squares and stuff, that they might get in accidents or, things like that. So, but there is a higher purpose to Uranus. And I think that, I think that you were at Maurice Fernandez's talk when he talks about that the energy of Uranus is to make something a higher expression than it was before. And I think that if it is, and what the problem with, Uranus is that it doesn't have any room for a lower expression. So it just kicks it out, and says, get out of here. And then it's like Mars out of bounds. I mean, like the South Node, out of bounds in the South part, where we can't really control it. I'm sure that there is something to do with that. I think that you're right about that.
Well, it's interesting because I watched on Cosmic Intelligence Agency's website yesterday. It had Adam Gainsberg, who I really like, on talking about Mars retrograde and conjunct the South Node, and obviously coming towards this eclipse. And he was just talking about I was there. I was watching.
Well, you were because you were watching it. I was. I love the internet.
Yes, and so he was talking about how if something's out of bounds. About pushing the boundaries in that area. And so, I mean, he wasn't going with the north-south difference. He was kind of making it look like you could kind of push the bounds with anywhere, with your, that Mars principle.
People will try. I think it'll probably be a little better in Capricorn because of the exaltation.
Exactly.
But I still think that there's some dangerous times that could be coming, for people that overestimate their abilities with the Mars energy.
And that's an interesting point, especially
to overdo it, overstep their boundary with, and not have that that natural holdback of hey, let's see what happens, and and then act. That thinking and acting first could be a little bit problematic. And then, as you said, Mercury just going retrograde to mess up the communications.
Yes, that's the thing that seems tricky about this week. Like you said, there's a lot of trickster energy out there, and things might not be as they seem, especially since, we have Venus opposing Neptune and this week too. And so there's a lot there's basically every single planet up in the mix except Saturn, but Saturn is the ruler of the lunar eclipse. So, every planet is getting its say this week, it seems.
Yes. Well, yeah. And I think Saturn and Capricorn is just having its nice time anyway. Honestly, it's yes, I'm back,
I'm back. So, that is funny.
That's been since this winter. And I have to tell you, I've been digging it because I've been getting stuff done. So not as quickly as I'd like, again, with all the retrogrades this summer that kind of put the brakes on a lot of things. But other things are they're just gently popping out of the woodwork. And so I have a feeling this winter I'm going to be really grinding it. But back to the eclipse, the other thing that I didn't see on your list, but that it's also conjunct, that meaning the eclipse itself is also conjunct the black moon Lilith. Now, a lot of astrologers in America don't use the black moon Lilith, but some in Europe do, and I think in Australia too. I'm not sure about the Australia ones, but the black moon Lilith is a point in, how in astronomy class, when we were in college and whatever, you learned about binary systems, where two stars would rotate around each other, kind of like DNA. I thought that was interesting. And our star is supposed to be by itself. The black moon Lilith is as if we have a binary star and maybe something happened to it, because there's some feeling about that there might be something that happened to it, but it's still like that. So for instance, with Sirius A and B, which are two stars that rotate around each other, Sirius B is a dwarf star and it's blackened, so you can't see it. But it still rotates. It still does its thing. So it's this kind of invisible energy. So I think that Black Moon Lilith is supposed to be about that. And I think that it's interesting that they would name it after the original scorned woman. Okay.
Of course.
Pretty interesting that it would be conjunct this eclipse, the longest one in the century, by the way. Like, let's go back to that, right? So I feel that there could be a lot of clearing. And by clearing, there is a big death and rebirth energy packed in, even though it's not in Scorpio. I think that that energy is still there. I think that there's a huge like coming in of new energy and a leaving of old energy. So I mean, I could see it as a gateway, like even between like, you know, people that are going to pass and people that are being born too. Like it's funny. It's a change.
It's funny you say that, Lisa, because I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, imagine the babies that are born this week.
I know.
Like what a planetary signature that they would have.
Yes.
And what would that mean? I mean, I don't necessarily have answers for that. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out in real time. But like you're saying, that's significant.
I would say that, I mean, as a higher purpose, those babies probably came in to heal something huge. And it has something to do with the sun and Leo being the identity and really owning themselves and being self-sovereign and cut from like ancestors, past lives, all of that. And then the Aquarius piece with the independence, but yet still honoring everybody else's independence and their healing. So I don't know. I think that would be a very interesting chart.
Yes, it would. Yeah. Oh, so let's bring back Black.
Oh, wait, they might be president because our president currently has an eclipse pattern, but hey.
Well, hopefully they'll be better. We'll
see what happens with all that. I've been kind of on the neutral side with that because I'm kind of just watching. I think that there's something else going on that's not really visible, and so I'm hesitant to take sides. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just I feel like there's something else that is not being shown to us.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that as well, because yesterday when on Adam Gainsbourg's talk that I was watching on CIA, he was saying, because he does a lot of work on the Mars cycles, and he was saying when Mars meets its opposition and it meets the opposition with the sun when it's retrograde, you would think that it would be visible with this, you know, that Mars energy would be visible, but he finds that because it is doing that battle with the sun in a sense, that position makes things unseen, or you're not able to, it's not quite visible. So here you are.
Exactly opposite.
Here you are talking exactly about that in our political affairs, you know, societal affairs, because we are dealing with Mars and Aquarius, and Leo, that sense of leadership. And so here, like he was saying, Putin just met with, you know, Trump the other day, and people were questioning, you know, what came out of that and what's really going on.
Yeah, I feel that there's something way below the surface. I'm hoping that the eclipses will reveal that, because I think it's going to be a huge surprise. I don't know what it is. It's just something I feel. So that's beyond astrology. So
we're going to have to get that pendulum out and time it.
I don't know if I want to know.
That's funny.
Like, you know, maybe we should just all be surprised.
Yeah, that's funny.
It'll be great, though. I have a feeling that something really good is coming in, because I did have dreams that were symbolically of like clearing away all of the, like, if you will, the Mars kind of, you know, riffraff, the anger and people like going, you know, like, if you don't agree with me, screw you, I'm blocking you from my life. And, you know, just some of the behaviors that have like just completely come to a crescendo this year that I don't ever remember in like my history growing up, that it's ever been this polarized.
Yeah. I mean, me either.
And yeah, I mean, and that's what, and that is exactly why I won't get polarized in this whole thing. I will not join either side, because I know that if you do that, then the human monkey mind brain starts getting involved. And, you know, the news is actually, you know, kind of, you know, created to busy that monkey mind. And I just don't, I can't do it. Now, doesn't mean that I don't want to know what's going on, because I have to, you know, like you got to know it. You just can't attach to it. And you just know that there's a truth that's happening that like is not being seen on the TV or on, you know, internet or anything right now. And I'm okay with that. I've had to become really okay with that. And
Well, maybe that's where that Mars energy in Aquarius and the lunar eclipse in Aquarius can help, because, essentially Aquarius allows us to detach a bit.
To detach.
Detach.
Yes. Ooh,
but
that would be good.
I know. The thing is, though, and especially in our climate, we have to know how much to detach, because there is also the detaching too much, and then you're so far removed.
Yes, and that's why I still watch the news. I don't want to be so detached that I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, if I start feeling like my emotions getting involved, I know that it's like, this is a, it's like, I gotta back off, because you gotta know what's happening. But if you're getting pulled into the monkey mind stuff, and, there's just a lot of that right now, that it's, it'll make you crazy. And then when, like, whatever the surprise is, because I feel like I'm hoping that it comes by the eclipses, even if it's this one, awesome. If it's even the one on August 11th, awesome. I'm okay. Like, it's like, I'd love the eclipses to just show me what I'm feeling, because I feel something really good coming, but something has to be cleared away. And I think that that's happening.
Well, and that's a good tie into the whole South Node.
Yes.
And then having Mars out of bounds there.
Once you remove like energies that were of the past, that are old and outworn, you have room for the new energies. And, there's no, I think that on a spiritual level, there's no, like, for people that are awake, you're already knowing that the earth is vibrating higher and humans are catching up.
Yeah. Yes,
humans
we're the ones stuck behind.
Yeah, well, the difference is because animals and crystals and, like even microbes, and viruses, everything. So when the earth had made a decision to, raise its vibration, and, there could be helpers, maybe not, like, I don't know, because I don't know if they're beyond 3D or not. But it feels like it's higher. And there's even like studies that say that the earth is like, it has a higher tone, like there's things in science that are showing that there's something going on, possible pole reversal, like all kinds of things. You can just look all of this stuff up. I can tell, though, like on a feeling level, that the earth is vibrating higher. I believe that all the creatures that, like animals and all of those, like all collectively agreed to also be in the higher vibration. It's like, okay, Earth, yes, we'll all raise too. But humans have a unique thing in that we have individual soul contracts. And so it's like the individual has to like agree to either ascend with the Earth or that they don't. And everybody's contract is different. And sometimes some of the people that I understand came in to like kind of exit with, like they came in to exit with the dark energies. Like that was their contract. And so it's not a judgment. It's like, it's just something that it's like, okay, the old is leaving, the new is coming in. So I just think that the eclipses, particularly this lunar eclipse, is one of those gateways that ushers in a lot of new and ushers out a lot of old.
Yeah, which is so fitting for Aquarius, because here we are. Aquarius is very much concerned with the future. And so I love what you're saying about, something that still has to be released, so then we can kind of rise up as well, because we have the sun in Leo, we have Mercury going retrograde in Leo, and so fire rises, so something is rising up as well. So I think that is a solid assessment, Lisa, because no one wants to hear about loss, with the South. What do you mean, what am I going to lose?
What am I going to lose? Oh wow,
we have to choose to lose.
But here's the thing. If we look at it that we're losing the things that we don't want, that would be okay.
Yeah.
If we're losing our health issues, or if we're losing our, like our shyness. Okay. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? Like you feel empowered, and then the new that would come in would be courage to replace the shyness.
Yes, because we're looking at that Leo sun and that Leo North node. So whatever's coming in and whatever it is we're aligning ourselves to, is heart-based and authentic. And maybe that's where the loss has to come in because something doesn't suit us any longer, whatever that may be like. And so if I'm thinking about a full moon in any opposition, usually we're faced with a choice or a decision of some sort. So I'm thinking we need to choose to lose during this.
Or you choose to be in the old energy. I mean, meaning depending on your path, because not everybody is, probably people that are in astrology are probably going to choose like the vibrating higher. But, there's lots of people that don't, study astrology. They don't even look at astrology. They think it's fake or something, Yeah. And that's okay because maybe they are supposed to be part of the old energy that's, leaving. So the other thing that I would say about the sun and the North Node is that I think that it is time to, in the old days, this was about the king energy. Mm-hmm. And I think in the current time, this is about being our own, royalty, meaning that we reclaim our own sovereignty and who we are and our personal power and be the king of our environment and our dominion and not just give that power away. That's what I've been noticing. And so, because the flip side of Aquarius is that, hey, we're all like a group and all of that. And the mistake, I think, is to give your power away in those group situations and allow others to, make decisions for you. Not a good idea. I think that the part of Aquarius that we need is so the part of Leo is owning our sovereignty. And then the part of Aquarius is allowing other people to own their sovereignty.
Yes.
And then we work together with that, not anybody sacrificing their personal power. Because in the old days, I think that, you had to sacrifice your power. I think that we're coming to a new age now where that, and I mean, the Kali Yuga ending and, there's lots of talk about that too.
Well, there's something to be said about,
age, There's
something to be said about owning your personal power within the collective. Because if we're all owning our personal power and then we come together with that sense of power, what can't be done?
Exactly. So I do find that depending on, dynamics, I feel that there are some groups that really get it, meaning that their folks all are very, very strong people. Because I think that one of the lessons that I think that I've learned with groups is that the weakest link breaks the chain. Okay, so
it's true.
Whoever your weakest person is in that group is going to be how strong you are.
Exactly.
It's like one of those kinds of things. I mean, you can do all the upliftment that you want and hopefully rise that person to not be in that space. But, they have to also, do the work and, we can't do the work for them.
Yeah.
And so you just have to know about how that works with groups. And I think that people think automatically, wrongly, groups equals better, groups equals, more resources, not necessarily with the weak link part, it actually could hurt you. So that's where the personal power Leo part comes in. So it's a balance of the two energies. I'm going to, although I do think that with South Node on the Aquarius side, I think that we all need to own our power a lot more than we need to give it up for the group. I think that we've been doing that kind of thing, for a long time. Yeah. And nothing wrong with groups. Okay. I like people.
We still need people
cool,
come together.
I have Saturn in Aquarius. So I'm down with Aquarius, but I also feel that we really all need to own our Leo. We need to own our inner queen or king, honestly.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I love the group analogy and the weakest link because, being a musician for several years in groups, I know that better than most. It can be very frustrating. And it's so true because no matter how good you are personally, if there is a person that is weaker,
yes,
and sometimes people are weaker because they don't have the same amount of talent, and that's okay. But sometimes people are weaker because they're not putting in the same amount of effort.
Right. Or making, or actually ripping holes in, the efforts that are made and actually
by others.
Yeah. I mean, there's huge stuff with that.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point, and something to consider. Something to consider, especially in this climate, because it's very delicate.
It sure is
right now. It's so delicate. Well,
did we miss anything on the list?
I'm at a loss for words, Lisa, because I don't even know what to say. I feel like I just have to live it in order to understand it at this point.
Yeah.
Because
and I guess none of us in this century have had, the longest eclipse. So this is kind of interesting. I think that, so we're all going to be living it in that way. We do have a lot of things happening. And I think that even if, I remember astrologer Donna Woodwell, who I just love, she says, like she talks to her people in Astrology Hub and all of this. And she says, astrology doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, like with the cycles. So I think that we don't really know how it's going to look, but once it happens, like it'll be a surprise, because that's just like what spirit likes to do. Yes. It's like, surprise, look at how, you guys made this collective thing, and look at, like what's happening. And I think a lot of why we're here is to experience this, like to see what we all decided before we came here. And to see what that looks like. And then like after it happens, then you go back and look at the astrology and you go, it matches exactly.
Yeah, I know. Hindsight's 20/20 all the time.
Oh my God.
But we are looking into future sight with this Aquarius energy, and assessing what it is we're doing for the future by having all these retrogrades. And like you were saying, we haven't had a Mars retrograde in Aquarius since 1971. Right. I wasn't even born.
And I don't even know if that one was out of bounds. Honestly, I have to look it up. I didn't even have time yet.
It might have been. Oh, well, no. I don't know. I'm looking at. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Look it up.
We have to claim ignorance here.
That's okay. Sure. But there are ephemerides that we can look it up. So
yes,
no problem.
So most of us, and probably a lot of my listeners, because I know a lot of people are in my age range or a little younger. We haven't experienced this yet, or I mean, no one has in this configuration. But especially Mars retrograde conjunct the South Node in Aquarius. These are parts of our chart that are virgin in a sense, that have not been touched. By this,
I would say that. And I was born I was born in 1964, so I was like a whole fresh, 8 years old, or like 7 or 8 years old in 1971. I don't really remember, so. It's one of those kinds of things. I think that even some of us that were here already might end up with that virgin moment.
Yeah. Well, we're all fresh. If we allow ourselves to be fresh, kind of blank slates in a way as we move through change, that's how we're going to get the best out of it, because we're open.
Absolutely. And open heart, definitely. Yeah. And especially in a Leo North Node, you have to have an open heart. And for the Aquarius part, you want an open mind also. Like it's a balance between them. But I would say if you're going to err on one side, open the heart more.
Yes.
The mind can really be, it can mess with you if you put it in charge over your heart.
Yes.
It's a mess.
Well, let's align with that heart. And I think this is a perfect way for us to wrap up our segment, because, that's an important takeaway. And I want people with that. So Lisa, tell people where they can find you, what you have going on, your website, et cetera.
Sure. My website is intuitivetiming.com or astroherbalist.com. They both work and they both find me. And I am an astrologer, herbalist, dowser, even tarot cards. So, and the dowsing part is how I do timing. Timing is my expertise, and it's actually what the book with Llewellyn is going to be about. So I'm really excited about that. That book will probably be out in the winter of 2020.
Yes. And so that's some time away, but I think you were just posting something yesterday about you having an article. You want to tell people about that?
Yes, sure. Absolutely. So Llewellyn, for over a century, has been creating the annual called the Moon Sign Book. And it's kind of like the esoteric Farmer's Almanac, really. It's been like, because of all these years that it's been around, I've only gotten to be in it twice, and this is the second time, and I'm really excited. I wrote an article about 3 lunar herbs. So that like they're herbs that like astrologically, energetically match with the moon energies. So that's why I thought it was appropriate for the Moon Sign Book. And yeah, Aaron at Llewellyn did a fantastic job. He made me like look really good again.
Well, I'm sure it's not that hard.
No, seriously. I don't know why books don't say, title of the book and then have the editor and then little tiny print, the author. I'm not kidding. I don't get it.
Yeah.
My editors make me look like amazing. I've done a little tiny bit of self-publishing, which is fine. Because, some things need to be self-published. You just got to do it. But as far as, hang on, my mic just fell. Mercury is here. Mercury is in the house. Well, I guess
where was I going with that?
I know, it's like the mic fell, and it's like maybe I just have
you literally did a mic drop, Lisa.
I really did
a mic drop there. So if you want to,
I'm not even a rapper.
That's funny. So if you want to check out Lisa, go to her website. If you're looking for timing, she's your gal, and look out for that book in the future, and check out the Llewellyn publication. What's the Moons?
Yeah, I have it on the author section. Like if you go to intuitivetiming.com or astroherbalist.com. It'll be the little drop down menu on your phone, or like if you're on a laptop, there's a navigation bar. It's the one that says author, and it'll be at the top because I just updated it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be finally on your show.
Yes. We'll have to have you back another time.
Please. I want to come back.
Okay, good. So, where can people find me? You can find me at energeticprinciples.com. You can find me on Facebook and mostly Instagram, a little more. I'm doing my thing on both, but there's more presence on Instagram, and that is at Energetic Principles. And I do, readings, whether they're local or I like to call them consultations. I do consultations, locally and via the web if you're anywhere else in the world. And like I was saying earlier, if you want to check out my tarot subscription on Patreon, if you want to do my weekly custom tarot spreads, you can do that at patreon.com/energetic principles. And as always, if you like what you heard here today, spread the good word, share it with a friend. And if you feel so inclined to leave a nice review on iTunes to help me get, more visible in the astrology world or in any world, per se, I would love that as well. So thank you again, Lisa, for being here. You're such a pleasure.
Thank you. I am so happy to finally be on your show, and I want to come back. For sure.
Okay, perfect. You will be back. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Bye.
And as always, may the stars be with you.